So our plan kind of for the closeout of today's session was to just offer an opportunity for folks to have a little bit of open Q&A with the Driftless Area program staff, which at this time is myself and Paul Cron, our stream restoration specialist. So I think many of you knew Jeff Hastings, who was the longtime program lead for Trout Unlimited, stewarded the past, I don't know if it was 14 or 15 symposiums. I'm a little unclear on the number, but we're either on our 15th or 16th symposium this year. I think the earliest one was in 2006. So wanted to give folks a chance to ask some questions about the Driftless Area program. I do have a couple slides that I was going to put up just to give a little bit of introductory information. And then we'll just, I think, again, use the Q&A function for folks to be able to submit some questions. I just wanted to put up a couple slides here with kind of a mini glimpse into what we have on deck for the next 5 years. As I mentioned, I took over the reins from Jeff Hastings, who was the longtime program manager. I've been here since July, still kind of getting oriented to all of the work in the 4 states, but we have a couple of kind of major programs that we operate that I think help describe the biggest bulk of our work. One of those is a Regional Conservation Partners program with NRCS. That's I guess reflected here with our partnership with USDA, and that is the mechanism that we use to conduct stream restoration work in combination with landowners who have, typically land in production, either cropland or pasture land in the stream corridor or adjacent to the stream corridor. And a lot of that work then is driven kind of from the landowner side up, looking at resource concerns that they have on their property. So the RCPP tool is one mechanism that we have to work with landowners to do stream restoration work. The other main program that we run is the Driftless Area Restoration Effort National Fish Habitat Partnership. We saw a presentation or a promotional video earlier from the Fishers and Farmers Partnership. That is our sister partnership in this region. DARE is also one of the oldest of the 20 fish habitat partnerships. And that program provides us an opportunity to pass through grants to landowners, to NGOs, municipal partners, to do both planning work, implementation work, or actually can fund some research and monitoring work related to stream restoration within the Driftless area. And that can occur on cold and cool water streams, and also has some eligibility for native species work in warmer systems as well. So those are kind of the 2 main program areas. I've put on here a list of a few of the stream restoration project sites that are kind of in the pipeline across the Driftless area, and also identified a couple of higher profile dam removal projects that we're supportive of as well. The Kinnickinnick in Wisconsin and the Upper Iowa in Iowa. So our fish habitat partnership, just as a kind of an example here, we've done a fair bit of work and continue to do work in the Middle Trempealeau River. It's an area that has had some earlier habitat suitability and climate change modeling done, identifying the likelihood of being able to persist as brook trout water into the coming decades. And so this is a place where we have prioritized making investments for restoration work. So we've had just more than these projects, but these are the most recent projects in this area: Bruce Valley, Chimney Rock. I've got approximate locations identified on this map. This is just a congratulations to the Windcrest chapter that was referenced in Dusty's presentation. They received an an award from Steel for the work that they've been doing to engage partners and TU members in doing stream restoration work and riparian corridor improvement, access improvement on the streams within their area. So just wanted to open up the floor for folks to be able to ask some questions about our program and some of the work that we do. Paul has a lot of stream restoration design expertise as well. So we know that those types of questions come up and be happy to take those. Paul, I don't know if you want to maybe touch on the way that stream restoration work sort of gets started under our NRCS program.
Well, I think we should tell folks that we're in the process of renewing our RCPP grant for another 5 years. So I think that's incredible to be sustaining this project for so long. It's been so popular and it has done so much good for all these driftless streams. But so if anybody, private landowners want to get involved, and again, participating in the RCPP program with Trout Unlimited and the NRCS, you do not have to have a public fishing easement. I mean, that's kind of something that has been brought up again and again. People think that's a requirement. It is not. And to begin, the landowner should just go to their NRCS office and talk to those folks and just tell them that they're interested in doing some kind of restoration work on their property. And they simply fill out an application, and the local technician will come out to the property and do an evaluation. And then from there, it will go to there'll be a ranking. So there'll be a period where it'll be open to apply, and then once that closes, it goes into a ranking program into pools, and those that rank the highest will be funded until the money is gone. So it's a simple process.
Yeah, Paul is right. I kind of leaped over something that I've been spending a huge amount of time on, which is renewing that 5-year award. And so we're in the process now of a renewal for that. We've been awarded, and that money should hit the ground this fall. It will be roughly still subject to a little bit of negotiation, but about 200 to 250,000 per year per each of the 4 driftless states inside of the driftless area. So it's just that the 50 counties essentially that are part of the driftless area. In fact, I can go back to that slide to show what counties it is that are eligible to receive that funding. Here we go. And so we work with NRCS staff to identify project opportunities in those areas. We have a list of conservation practices that are eligible for landowners, and we do have requirements within that ranking process for landowners to incorporate habitat work. So it isn't a place where it would be suitable for a landowner to come in and just seek rock riprap armoring on a stream bank. They have to incorporate habitat work and conservation practices as part of their project. So we're really looking for projects that are or landowners who are willing to meet kind of multiple objectives with the project. We've got a project coming up this year that is looking at putting a stream back into a channel that had been ditched, or I guess removing it from the ditching and putting it back into a remnant channel that was not actually obliterated. So we have an opportunity to restore a stream back into its former channel and be able to reconnect it to the floodplain and to a full series of wetlands that are throughout that floodplain. So obviously those don't come along every day, but a project like that would score very well in our program for being able to meet multiple objectives.
Yeah, we really like to take a holistic approach to stream restoration and not just focus on stream or the trout, but stream bank stabilization, habitat for threatened and endangered species and what we call non-game species. So that goes, turtles, frogs, warblers, kingfishers, everything that would utilize that stream corridor, as well as planting pollinator species. And now we're looking at going back and actually planting trees as a way to help mitigate a little bit of climate change. So we're looking at different tree species, what would be appropriate. And that would be an excellent TU chapter field outing every spring to go out and plant trees.
Yeah. So somebody must be in the know about the Fancy Creek project. So the one I'm referencing with the ditch stream being restored, that is at Fancy Creek, Richland County. And they asked us to identify the problem to be overcome and how that work will be done. So obviously the prior ditching is what we're looking to address, being able to restore a more natural aquatic system as well as a more natural hydrologic regime through that section. So the ditching has changed the base water surface elevation, which is changing then the frequency and duration of flooding to the different wetland communities that exist on the floodplain there. So part of the restoration design there is meant to address restoring that type of hydrologic connectivity, which then we hope will drive the vegetation community to really persist in more of a sedge meadow type of community type, rather than either invasives or species that are more adapted to the longer intervals between wetting and drying cycles that are occurring there now. I think the mechanism that we're doing the work, this one will have some hired design services. We have Paul's capabilities to be able to do design work in-house, but we do hire out some design work depending on the level of complexity of the design and whether or not it has engineering requirements. Some practices do require sign off and stamped plans by a professional engineer. TU does have some engineers on staff, but not for the Driftless area explicitly. So we are able to hire in some of those services as well. And that's something we're building into our third award of the RCPP program, recognizing that there are a number of projects on the landscape that really can't get done unless we have the ability to get that engineering work done on behalf of the other partners, the NRCS and local county conservation offices, in conjunction with the landowners. So we're kind of stepping in to meet that technical need through, in that case, a hired out consultant service. I guess that's also related to a question that came in asking about the significant restoration projects like dam removals. How would a project like that work? And how often do we engage engineering consultants to do that design work? So those two, the two sets of dam removal projects that we are supportive of are not being led currently by the TU DARE program. So we would be a cooperating partner in those programs. The dam removals on the Kinney River are being spearheaded by several different TU chapters. There are a lot of TU folks engaged in that endeavor, but the design work is actually being led now by the Corps of Engineers through just a recently signed agreement with the city of River Falls for use of the Corps' engineering and design services through their aquatic restoration assistance program, which I'm forgetting now the code for that program. If we were to conduct a dam removal project directly through DARE, that is also something that we would likely, hire out through an engineering firm for that design work. So let's see, I have a question about how do we prioritize water bodies in the 4 states? I wonder if I can bring that up. TU has been going through a priority waters process. I almost don't want to risk messing with my screen, given I'm clearly not super proficient at flipping these screens around, but we will very soon have those maps available publicly. Trout Unlimited has been working over probably the last almost 2 years in identifying priority watersheds across the country. For the Driftless area, really all of the Driftless area, each of the 4 states, these priority waters planning processes have kind of been conducted at a state level. All 4 of the Driftless area states identify the Driftless area as a landscape of priority within their priority waters planning process. In Wisconsin, the other areas of priority include the Central Sands, the headwaters regions of the Great Lakes tributaries. So we have a little bit, I guess, broader set of priority waters, as well as a few trout lake or trout pond systems in Wisconsin. But we have identified a few watersheds within the Driftless area that are sort of emblematic of where we think we will carry out our work. And like the Kickapoo is a watershed where we've had investments in the past. We will continue to work there both under both program areas, as well as potentially engage in some work that we're building right now related to nutrient trading. So the Kickapoo is a place that's sort of an emblematic watershed for the type of work we'll be doing, but those practices will occur across all of the Driftless watersheds. I don't know, is there anything else, Paul, that you would add on that I'm missing?
Not that I can think of. I think you covered it.
Okay. So let's see, we're trying to read through these quickly here. Oh, so someone has an interest in doing prairie planting and creek health on a new purchase of land in the Tainter Creek watershed in Viroqua. Would they need to start working with their local NRCS office?
I would say they could go to NRCS, but they should also talk to the folks at Valley Stewardship Network, because they have some prairie specialists there and good connections.
Yeah, and we've had a number of restoration projects on Tainter Creek. Paul, I know you were involved in a couple extensive projects there. Valley Stewardship Network is one of our RCPP program partners, and we're really looking to collaborate with them on projects that occur kind of within the area that they are able to service, because they do have good expertise in prairie plantings as well as doing grazing plans. So that would be one mechanism by which we're hoping to bring those services in for landowners who are interested or willing to consider incorporating those practices. Then we'll be partnering with Valley Stewardship to try to expand our reach. But yeah, NRCS would be a great place to start for that. And we had a question about whether we can use our CPP funds in waters that are not designated trout streams, but that are cold or cool water.
And the answer is yes. It goes through the process of ranking, but the cool and the cold water are down at the lower, towards the bottom of the ranking structure.
But there's, points are also awarded for a project that's more comprehensive. So if you are hitting more other targets in a watershed like that, you'll receive, benefits on that side of the equation. So those projects are definitely worth pursuing and running through that option. And if they end up not being a good fit for our CPP, they still may be of interest for the Fish Habitat Partnership funds or other opportunities out there that we could help steer you toward if we're not actually involved directly in those programs already.
Yeah, if they don't fit exactly into ours, there's always the NRCS EQIP program.
Let's see. How are we incorporating science into the way we're planning and prioritizing restoration projects? Is it consistent for each state? There is a little bit of autonomy at each state level. I think one of the things that we're looking to do in this next 5-year period that will help us provide another scientific metric to be able to do planning across the whole driftless landscape is to be able to conduct some stream barrier inventory work, road stream crossings, it's culverts. I think, well, our very first speaker of the day, if you've been around all day, Mike really touched on the impact that culverts and bridges can have for connectivity in watersheds. So that data has been collected on the coasts in coastal regions for salmonids and other anadromous fishes for the last 20 years, but interior regions haven't been inventoried very extensively. And so the Upper Miss Basin in particular is one that's really has a lot of gaps in our knowledge about the fragmentation that exists on the landscape. There was some earlier work done, Mike referenced it, looking at a basic like intercept exercise using GIS, taking roads and streams and making some assumptions based on the slopes and sizes of streams to identify whether or not there were likely barriers in the driftless. So we are going to be having some technicians working this summer actually to start validating and inventorying those crossings in the driftless area, starting in Crawford, Richland, Trempealeau, and Jackson counties in Wisconsin to help fill that data gap. Something that we're very interested in as it relates to identifying watersheds that would be high priorities for reconnection projects or restoration projects. And for that work, we are working out from brook trout reserves as kind of the highest priority because they've already been identified and vetted as good long-term habitat. But then moving down through the classified trout streams to be able to inventory all of those watersheds and get in front of infrastructure replacements to be able to make sure that those are sized correctly for both flood continuity and debris continuity, as well as for habitat connection. So that's one piece of science that we haven't yet been able to bring to bear for the whole region, in part because the data has been limiting across all 4 states. So that'll be a big thing to close in the next 5 years that would allow us to run a conservation portfolio analysis, which is similar to what the Great Lakes and the Eastern brook trout, the very farthest eastern range of brook trout have done, to be able to do prioritization across multiple states. Okay, now I'm lost in the questions again. Do you see one, Paul?
Yeah, so the other question is, so the upcoming RCPP could apply to eligible projects in the entire driftless area in the map shown, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, and we've definitely had some areas more highly represented than others. So we have been continuing to try to outreach to counties that maybe haven't had work come in yet through the RCPP, because it is eligible for any of those counties can make applications. Let's see.
And how many new stream miles in the driftless area will be opened up for public fishing in 2023?
Oof.
I would not know. You know, because you know those easements are secured sometimes by the county, sometimes by the DNR, and I guess we don't have a clearinghouse to know, the running tally.
Right. Yeah. DNR does do the bulk of acquisitions across the Driftless. I think in all 4 states, the DNRs are the main, well, not Illinois,
Yeah.
in Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, the DNRs are really kind of the lead body that would be holding access easements, although there are places where, for instance, Trempealeau County in Wisconsin, where there might be local rod and gun clubs that hold a fair number of easements. I know Casey presented on one. Ellsworth Rod and Gun Club has access up on the Rush too. So
Yeah. So I would contact, the state DNR, and then if you know the exact county you want to go into, you can go maybe to a county website. I know like Vernon County has their easements published on the website. So that's what I would suggest, to try to get your latest easement information.
well, if folks have other questions about our program, Paul and I are both always open to taking questions, email or call. Paul in particular. Only because I have a lot of things on my plate at the very
Yeah.
moment.
They're as overwhelmed right now.
But
They're
yeah,
doing a great job. Wonderful job.
Yeah, so don't be shy about sending things along, and project opportunities. If they're not a great fit for us or for the programs we have, we know a lot of other partners that we can also share ideas with. So